climate change, reproductive choice, and gun control reform have in your candidacy, and what role they will have when you're the delegate?
This question almost seems like my alma mater. Looking like this and going to every school that I went to, being the only Sikh in every school that I've ever attended, by the way, all public schools, has been the question, has been begging my whole life. What do you do for those who can't stand up for themselves? For the past 549 years, the Sikh community has been a voice for the voiceless around the entire world. That, my friends, is the exact notion that you will have in me as not only the Democratic nominee, but the Democratic delegate in a Democratic majority House in Richmond with the governor's mansion being blue. The issues that are specifically mentioned, and I'll go back and forth. LGBTQ. The bigotry and hatred that our country has had, I'm not going to say came with Donald Trump. It's been there. It's been there for a while, and it's still there. And I was reaffirmed of this about 2 weeks ago when I saw a motorcycle with a Confederate flag in Gainesville. Friends, that is not what Gainesville or the 13th or Virginians represent. That is not what you represent. That is not what I accept. It is unacceptable that we have people waving a flag that was defeated because it stood up for slavery. It stood up for selling and buying human beings and making them work without any wages. It stood up for discrimination. But I'm going to stand up to discrimination. We're going to make sure Virginia General Assembly does not pass any legislation that discriminates against anybody. I want to make sure that is clear. It does not matter what group, what color pigment of your skin is, where you come from, how you identify your sexuality, how you identify as a person. You will not be discriminated against. And that is a promise that I want to make. Person to a person, not as somebody who's vying for the delegacy. But it doesn't matter if I get elected or not, which I will. I will fight for those issues, no matter what happens in the Virginia General Assembly in the years to come.
As the first transgender person to ever run for any office in Virginia, I would be the first out transgender person ever seated in a state legislature in American history. And when I do that, my first day on the floor, I'll be sworn in. When I cast my first vote, I'm going to look at my base back there, who's going to be sitting up in the gallery, and I'm going to think of my 10-year-old volunteer from Roanoke, Clara, who, as a transgender girl, knows exactly what it's like to be picked on, to be bullied, to be singled out, stigmatized, and to basically be the target of the legislation that Delegate Marshall put in this year when he introduced HB 1612, which I went down to Richmond to go fight and won. Just like last year, when I went down to Richmond to fight 9 anti-LGBT bills, including 2 of his, and I talked to Republican legislators while I was down there, found common ground with them, just so that I know that in any case, no matter what discriminatory stuff they'll support regarding bathroom bills and locker rooms and stuff like that, at least I know that they're going to actually be decent on birth certificates. Because right now, when you have a Republican-controlled legislature, folks, in Virginia, my rights are on the line every single day that the General Assembly is in session. This one's personal. I know what it is like as a reporter to cover 2 brutal homicides of transgender women. I know what it's like when we're talking about the intersections here between women's rights, between LGBTQ rights, between just everything that you can think of with this, going from poverty all the way to just being able to live peacefully in this area. I know what it is like to listen on the phone and to have a father cry to me, I miss my baby girl. I miss my baby girl, after his transgender daughter was stabbed so many times at a hotel room in Rockville that his family had to dress her body in a white gown that came down to her wrist and down to her ankles just to preserve the dignity of an open casket funeral. I know what it is like to be in an alleyway in Montgomery Village, seeing little tiny candles that spelled out the word Zella on the pavement between dumpsters on this side and a brick wall on this side, where another transgender woman was shot in the head and shot in the groin by someone who police said did so because he was afraid that people would find out that he dated a transgender woman. This is as real as it gets. And when my delegate of 25 years singles out and stigmatizes people who are like me, people who are like you, and every other LGBT person in this room, it is not enough for us to just say, it happened to them, it doesn't matter to me. No, when it happens to any of us, we stand united and we show a fist of solidarity. When the Muslim ban happened, what did we do? We marched. When Donald Trump took offense to women on his first day in office, we marched. And it doesn't matter which group is being assaulted. It is a democratic value for us to stand together as one and to say, we will not accept that in our America, and we will not accept that in our Commonwealth. I've led the fight on this in the General Assembly. I've rebutted Delegate Marshall's testimony right in front of him, in front of the Prince William County School Board on 2 occasions last year, and you can count on me to be blunt, direct, and forceful in the way that I defeat him this year. Thank you.
Embraced by my campaign, but since I only have 3 minutes, I'm going to try to talk about 30.
That's a tough question.
But LGBT equality. One of the greatest honors that was bestowed upon me was when my good friend Tom married Rob, and they asked me to be their best man. The unfortunate part was we had to go down to Alexandria and get on the Cherry Blossom and undock and go into DC water so they could do that because they couldn't legally do it here yet in the Commonwealth. You know, Bob Marshall's transgender bathroom bill got me in the race to see the discrimination, the divisive legislation that he was about ready to put in at our General Assembly. And knowing very well what occurred in North Carolina, wanting that for the Commonwealth. That's not good representation. Immigration reform. In 2013, I wrote an article for The Hill, which was published. It was a prosecutor's call for common sense immigration reform. In the article, I laid out how many problems occur in the criminal justice system because of how complicated immigration law is. That we can't come to a just conclusion sometimes because you don't understand or appreciate the collateral consequences that could happen if somebody took a plea to a misdemeanor or a felony. Gun violence prevention has pretty much been my career in my life. We're going to get common sense gun legislation done in the Commonwealth here. There was a recent poll that just came out about 3 weeks ago. It said 94% of all Virginians agree with universal background checks. It's not rocket science that felons and people suffering from crisis or mental health crisis shouldn't have a firearm, shouldn't have access to go purchase a weapon. Because we hear this far too often in this country. That family that's being interviewed by that news reporter that says, I knew this was coming, I could see it, they were in a crisis, and now there's a mass shooting that we're addressing in this country. But greater than that, about 2/3 of the 36,000 gun deaths that we have in this country are by suicide. So if you're in a crisis and we limit your access to purchasing a gun, we've saved a life. We need criminal justice reform here in the Commonwealth. We have draconian laws still on the books. I can't believe a felony for $200. If you steal something, $200 felony, you can ruin somebody's life for stealing a cell phone.
Amen.
So I hope to bring common sense legislation and change some of these draconian laws here.
This question's going to give us a bunch of choices. That's good. I like that.
I talked about LGBT community a lot, and so I'm not going to hit too hard on that, but it's really disgusting that Bob Marshall is just so obsessed with this. This is so weird. So my heart's out to the LGBT community, and whichever one of us is running against this is going to be a key issue to ding this guy on, because he's the only one, he's the only Republican who's so obsessed with this stuff. He's going after porn and all sorts of other stuff too now. It's out of control. But I'm going to focus on two things: immigration and the environment. Immigration is something that's so near and dear to me. And it's really funny because I'm a 15th-generation American family came through Jamestown. I'm a 15th-generation American came through Jamestown. But my wife is a first-generation American who came from Nepal. So immigration is something incredibly important to me. Now, like I said before, what makes a good American? Personal freedoms, believing in those that everybody has the right to do, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, whatever, if it doesn't affect anybody else, that's your right. You have those freedoms. And that everyone's success is based off effort and opportunity and how hard people try, not based off who your parents are, not based off of what class you were born into. So America has benefited so much from all the cultures that have come here. Started with different European cultures. We got all these different ideas, and guess what? We kept the best ideas. And the same thing's happening now. We got cultures from all over the world, including the United States, and we get the best ideas from them. And so as long as you believe in those two things, immigration has benefited us greatly. So right now we take about 1 million immigrants a year, and our population, the country, not Virginia. So right now I think that we can actually increase that number. And if we keep it at a merit system to the people who want to be here, who want to chase freedom, who want to work for opportunity, who are bringing new business ideas, who are entrepreneurs, who want to escape persecution, who want to escape natural disasters, who are refugees, that we let these people come here, it's going to make our country stronger. I'll give you an example. My wife, I've deployed 2 times. She's deployed 3 times. So she is a first-generation American. Maybe she's more of an American than myself, some of all of us. It depends. So while I'm talking about my wife, who I love so much, I get to plug her into everything. I'll talk about the environment, because she works for the EPA. So much to our, So much to our dismay yesterday, what happened? Donald Trump tried to pull us out of the Paris Accord. We joined Nicaragua and Syria. Well, Syria is fighting a civil war, so I don't know who we're supposed to organize with over there. But Nicaragua said it wasn't strict enough. Today, I was really happy because 3 states have said that they're going to participate in the Paris Accord. If I'm in the Virginia legislature, guess what I'm going to do? First thing, Virginia, we're going to the Paris Accord. We're going to make our own deal. 26% less carbon emissions by 2025. Now, it ties into a lot of stuff that I'm doing in my campaign. Infrastructure. So infrastructure is a big thing. The metro right now, if we increase the metro, it takes millions of cars off the roads. Millions of tons of carbon emissions and CO2 gas that are pumping into our air. Every car that takes off the road, we will have cleaner air. Thank you.